Hey everyone, it's Melissa. Today I'm going to be doing a video that I originally titled Good Books You've Never Heard Of, probably. But after making my list, I realized that most of these books were summer romances or contemporary that was set in the summer. When I say you've never heard of them, you might have, but they're just not really talked about. A lot of them did come out maybe like 3 years ago when I first started book blogging. So it could just be that, you know, they got lost in the shuffle, because I feel like, you know, when new books come out, we all kind of are like shiny object and we just focus on the new books. Because I love you guys so much, I'll leave links to these books in the description down below. The first book I want to talk about is called Lost and Found by Nicole Williams. This is technically a new adult book, but it definitely felt like older YA, and it is a series. I think there's 5 books in the series. So we have our main character, Rowan, who's about 18 years old. She wants to go off to art school, but she can't afford it, and her mom agrees to pay for it if she goes to Montana to her mom's friend's ranch and works for the summer to prove, I guess, that she can have the good work ethic, because Rowan is a little bit rough around the edges and her mom doesn't really want to put in all that money if she doesn't think she's gonna actually take it seriously. Rowan's like, fine, whatever, let me just get this summer over with. So, like I said, Rowan has a little bit of a past and she's a little bit on the darker side, but she goes to this ranch and she meets the ranch hand, Jesse, who is a hot cowboy and is kind of like a bright personality that contrasts her darker personality. This book has family, a cute romance, it has angst, and it definitely has that feel of kind of like down south, even though it's Montana. It's like, I don't know, I like that ranch setting. And there were a lot of funny parts in it. I do remember laughing quite a bit. I will say the first scene was kind of boring. It's a lot of backstory. She's on a bus going to the Montana, but I really hope that you stick with the book, because once she gets there, it's so good. The second book that I would like to mention is called The Perfect Manhattan, and it's by 2 authors. It's Leanne Shear and Tracy Toomey. This is a new adult contemporary, but I feel like this definitely came out before new adult was a thing, so technically I think it's like adult, but the main character is 22 or 21. Our main character, Cassie, she just graduated college and she's trying to figure out how to pay back her student loans because she wants to be a screenwriter, but obviously that's very hard to do, so she's like, let me get a job as a bartender and I'll pay back my student loans. The only problem is she's never been a bartender before, so she finds a job in the Hamptons for the summer as a bartender. So she's thrown into this world of like rich people and celebrity and type stuff like that, and I think there's like of course there's a hot celebrity guy or somebody that falls for her, and so there's that whole like romance going on, and then I think there's one other guy who's more like good for her, so I think there is a bit of a love triangle. It's been a really long time since I read this book, but I remember loving it, and I keep trying to find it in my library because that's where I originally found it. And I just can't find it. They must have gotten rid of it, so I might have to buy it. I think the reason that I really loved it and really connected with the character is because I worked in a restaurant from 2006 or 7 until probably like 2009. 2 different restaurants, big major chains. And the first one was like this amazing experience. I had like this huge family at work. We spent all our time together outside of work. They were my best friends. We had like the best time working. Like I did not dread going in. And then I worked at this other chain restaurant where like sort of similar, but it wasn't as closely knit and it wasn't as much fun. But those 2 experiences were like very represented in this book. There are some crazy people that you meet, and I remember reading the book and just being like, oh my god, this is so true. It's exactly how it is. I was also reading this book right after I had graduated college, and I was trying to figure out how the hell I was going to pay my student loans and do what I wanted to do, which at the time I really wanted to be an elementary school teacher. That's what I got my degree in. So I was like, how am I going to pay my bills with, you know, student substituting? It's just like impossible. You make like $80 a day substituting. That's not enough to sustain yourself, especially if you're only getting jobs. Like, I mean, usually I would get calls every day, but yeah, it's just, I definitely related with this character. Let's move on to book number 3. So we have Beach Blondes by Katherine Applegate is the next book that I want to talk about. This is a YA contemporary. This is a series of 3 books, and it's about this girl named Summer. So Summer is from Minnesota and she goes to the Florida Keys for the summer to live with her cousin. There's romance, there's mystery, and there's a few tough topics thrown in. So I do have the second book, I think. It's maybe the second or third book. It's called Tan Lines. So one thing I want to mention, here's the cover of Beach Blondes. I don't know if you can see that. And it's from Borders, that's how old this book is. But the covers are like, have nothing to do with the book. I mean, this one may be a little bit more, but the first one is like a bunch of girls taking a selfie. There's only like 2 or 3 girl main characters. There's not like this big group of friends. So if you go into this expecting the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, you're gonna be disappointed. And don't let this cover, just don't even look at the cover. Just cover it with a paper bag. The next book is Wander Love by Kristen Hubbard. So we have our main character, Bria, who signs up for a guided tour of Central America. But when she gets there, she finds it's all old people with fanny packs, and she's like, screw this, and she ditches them and decides to go on her own adventure. So she ends up meeting this guy, Rowan, and his sister, Starling, who are dive instructors, and they decide to kind of take her under their wing and be like her tour guide for a little bit. But I wanted to read something from the summary because it was better than anything I could summarize. As they travel across a panorama of Mayan villages, remote Brazilian islands, and hostels plagued with jungle beasties, they discover what they have in common. Both seek to leave behind the old versions of themselves, and the secret to escaping the past Rowan has found is to keep moving forward. But Bria comes to realize she can't run forever, no matter what Rowan says. If she wants to fall for someone worthwhile, she had to start looking back. Kristen Hubbard lends her artistry to this ultimate paperback novel, weaving her drawings into the text. Her career as the travel writer and her experiences as a real-life vagabond backpacking through Central America are deeply seated in this inspiring story. So we have an author who has been to Central America and who was a travel writer. So obviously, like, her experiences are in this book, and it feels like definitely authentic and real. And as you heard, the author's drawings are in this. And they're pretty good. So we have some drawings here. Let me show you one more. The first one. I feel like this would be good for fans of Just One Day, but I love that this is set in Central America. I feel like a lot of the times travel books for us are set in Europe because as an American, that's like where we think to go first. I don't know why, but it just is. So it's definitely had a different feel to it, and I really, really remember liking this. I do want to reread it. I think I got this out of bookoutlet.com for like $5, so if you are interested in this, you should go look at Book Outlet. And the last book that I want to mention is called The Book of Broken Hearts by Sarah Auchler, which I own, so I don't know why I'm not showing you. Here it is. It's The Book of Broken Hearts by Sarah Auchler. This book is a standalone, and I should mention Wander Love is a standalone as well. The Book of Broken Hearts is a standalone. It's a YA contemporary. So we have Jade's older sisters who made a pact when they were younger, and so they're a lot older now. They're like in their 20s, but Jade is still, I think, maybe 17, maybe 18. I think she's 18 because I think she's about to go to college next year or the year after. Her older sisters had made this pact that they would never fall in love with a Vargas boy ever again, because I guess there's this other family that has a bunch of brothers and they all have a bad reputation of breaking girls' hearts. So Jude is young and she's like wants to be part of her sister's fun pact, so she agrees to it. Doesn't think anything of it. And then one day Jade needs somebody to help her restore this vintage motorcycle because her father has Alzheimer's, and she thinks that if they restore this vintage motorcycle, it'll trigger some memories for him and bring him back because he's in very early stages of it. So she goes to a mechanic to get somebody to help, and the mechanic gives them Emilio Vargas. So the main questions that this story raises that like I had to finish reading to know is, what would happen if her sisters find out that she's working with a Vargas and he's in their home of all places? 2, what would happen if restoring the bike doesn't bring her father back? What if he's just too far gone and it's just not gonna work? And 3, what if she falls for Emilio? So those 3 questions definitely kept me reading to the end, and I feel like this book is really not really talked about. You know, it had like a purple cover that was kind of boring, so I think like covers really do matter, and I feel like people were just like not picking it up because it looked a little bit boring. Not that this one's really that much better, but so that's what I'm going to attribute it to, because it really is a good story. What I also love about it is that it has a diverse cast. So I feel like a lot of the times when we think of diverse books, when we say we want diverse books, we think of African American main characters that we want. But there's like a lot of other cultures that need to be represented too, and I think this book did a good job at representing Argentinians and Puerto Ricans. So our main character is Argentinian, her parents are from there, and I think the mom like wants to go back. One of my family members married somebody who his parents are from Italy, and his mom is always like, oh, I want to go back and like visit my family that's there and stuff, and you know, be back in that culture and stuff. So she goes over and visits a lot. So I was like, oh, like I can relate to this a little bit, even though I'm not exactly like this main character. And then we have the other main character, Emilio, and his family is Puerto Rican. So there is a lot of like Spanish words in the story. So hopefully that's not incorrect. I know like in Brazil they speak Portuguese, but I'm not sure what version of Spanish they speak in Argentina. So I thought that it was really, it definitely like made the story more interesting for me, because I got to learn something as well as, you know, experience, you know, the story. And this book definitely tackles a tough topic. So it tackles the topic of Alzheimer's disease, which I'm sure you guys know is when somebody starts to lose their memories and lose the ability to make new memories. So this main character, it's her dad, and her dad's only like, I want to say he's only like 50, maybe 45. I can't remember his exact age, but he was really young. Once I read this book, I realized like, no, it does happen to younger people. And I actually was on Facebook recently while I was reading this book, and I saw this girl that I used to do dance competition team, her family member has it, and her family member is only like 60. So it definitely hit home that this is like a real thing that happens to a lot of people. And yeah, so it's a very important topic. And I talked about this in a reading vlog that I did that I will probably never post because I lost half the footage. I talked about how I was reading the book every day. So in that book, he's like just a soul and he goes into a different body every day. And I talked about how it was really great to like see into different lives. So you get like, you know, 25 different points of views in one book. And he definitely tackled tough topics in that book too. And I was talking about how, you know, empathy is really important. We need to learn empathy. That's what our society lacks in this digital age, is empathy. So to be able to like read these books where you're in somebody else's perspective, dealing with their struggles, you really get to like feel for them and understand what they're going through. And it helps me, you know, personally not judge people so much. I think because I do read so much, I'm so many different people as I'm reading that it makes me really just empathize with people. So this story definitely helped me empathize with people that are going through, you know, a tough time like that with a family member that has Alzheimer's. And it definitely showed how sometimes, like, you know, you think of Alzheimer's and you think of like, they just don't remember stuff, or they just don't remember who their family are. Like you think of like The Notebook, where the lady's just like, oh, hello, who are you, to her grandchildren, you know? I feel like this book did a really good job of showing when people that are experiencing Alzheimer's are getting really angry because they don't know what's going on. They're getting angry that they can't remember something. So this main character, her dad is fine 1 second in the grocery store, and the next second he's making this big scene, and she's like, I don't know how to deal with this, and it's like just very hard for her, and I just can't even imagine what that's like.